Hi, this is Roger, creator of the Azure Sandbox, and in this video series, we're going to cover the Azure MySQL Flexible Server configuration. It's an optional configuration that is part of the Azure Sandbox. So to get started, we're going to navigate up to our vanity URL, which is aka.ms/Azure Sandbox. And that'll drop us into the Azure Architecture Center and the Azure Sandbox Guide. So from there, we'll navigate down to the deployment section so we can grab a link to the GitHub repo where the code for the Azure Sandbox is all checked in. So I'll navigate to that. And we're now in GitHub in github.com/azure-samples/Azure Sandbox. And we're going to navigate to this section, the MySQL section. So just a few words on the architecture of this. This is somewhat similar to the previous configuration that we covered, the Azure SQL Database configuration, with one important exception. The Azure MySQL Flexible Server service does not use the private link service to expose private endpoints. It uses another mechanism in Azure called delegated subnets to do that. So essentially with a delegated subnet, what we've done here is as part of the VNet app configuration that we provisioned previously, we carved out a subnet here, MySQL 01, represented by this 10.2.3 address space. And we've handed it off to the Azure MySQL Flexible Server service to manage and to create its own private endpoints. And that delegated subnet construct basically turns over management of that subnet to the managed service, in this case, MySQL Flexible Server. So it manages all the settings for you. And then it'll spin up and create private endpoints inside that delegated subnet when you go through your configuration. So this box here represents the Azure MySQL Flexible Server instance that we provision. And then inside there, we're going to provision a database called TestDB. So prior to, this is again is an optional configuration, and prior to attempting to provision it, you must have provisioned VNet app in advance. And of course, in order to provision VNet app, you must have provisioned VNet shared as well. And then we'll be referencing the Terraform state files in both of those previous configurations to pull configuration information to make deployment of this particular configuration easier. So we're going to pick up in the next video on the getting started section. Thanks.